we are live. It is May 12th. For me, it feels like probably one of the busiest months of the year so far. It's crazy how this month has just taken off. We are 3 or 4 days away next Tuesday from the shareholder meeting. It should be an amazing time. Really, I see the shareholder meetings as a great opportunity to just hang out with the community. But also too, there's been a bunch of announcements even last night. I feel like sometimes I can even say Joe, like I feel like Joe and I were just like updating the PowerPoint slide last night. There was a couple of price changes. We also know about Giga Austin ramping to 5,000 units. We're going to get Jeff's take on that a little bit later. We're also going to talk about the Lithium Refinery factory that was groundbreaking this past week. And then we have a special guest, James from Unplugged. There was big breaking news specifically. We're just seeing this transition happening, and it's really cool to just see. So James, he works at Unplugged. We're going to bring him in a minute, and he's going to talk to us about this deal. South Pasadena PD actually bought or leased 20 Model Ys and 3s. And Unplugged is essentially helping them configure all of them. And again, we're going to get more details on that. But this is just another step into this transition to a sustainable future. So we're going to bring him in. But with that, I just wanted to do some quick intros. We have our regular guests here, Jeff and Joe. Amy will be joining us in a little bit. So if you want to say hi or maybe give a quick intro of who you are. I don't know. Joe, you're on mute.
I'm Joe, from the president for the Tesla owners of San Joaquin Valley. It's always good to be here. Nice to see you, Jeff. John?
Jeff,
hey, good morning. This is Jeff. Good to see everyone, and and great to be with you this morning.
Yeah, this is number 7, so let's get into it. All right, James, what is going on? How's it going?
There he is.
Good morning, everyone. How's it going?
Great. Well, obviously, you're our special guest today, and we just really want to just talk about, how did this deal happen? Was this something that they approached you? Were you? I mean, I don't think Unplugged really like goes out and solicits like, hey, well, but like, first off, tell us what you do at Unplugged, and then let's just start talking about like, the beginning of this. Is this something even Unplugged had ever done before? How did this kind of story kind of just come together?
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, thank you so much for having us on this morning. Super stoked to be talking with y'all. This is such an exciting time. And I mean, hey, when we're talking Tesla, what's not exciting, right? What's not to love? But this basically, so my name is James. I've been with the company here at Unplugged for 3 years. Actually, just celebrating my 3 years with the company. Prior to that, I was just under 4 years at Tesla in leadership, delivered VIN number 1 Model 3 and helped with delivery training and all sorts of really fun stuff at Tesla before coming here to Unplugged. So now on the leadership team with Unplugged and handle a lot of different things. But one of the big things that I'm focused on is, the future and the different things that we're going to do relating to experience. Because one thing a lot of people don't know is Unplugged is not just motorsport, right? We're a full-bodied experience. Like anything that Tesla is not really able to do because of that massive scale that they're looking for, that's where we kind of come into play and we say, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to be a value add, to bring additional attention, additional, visibility to electrification, the mission, and of course, Tesla as a brand. So, that then carries into, how did this all come together? How did this happen? It's kind of crazy, right? Because how does this company who won at Pikes Peak and makes really cool upgrades for Teslas, how did they end up building a police fleet? So for us, it started literally about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. And essentially South Pasadena reached out as a standard customer and said, hey, we know you guys are the best of the best when it comes to Tesla enhancement. And we are thinking that we might want to go and do some electrified, police fleet. And we're thinking Tesla's the way to go. between infrastructure, the reliability of the brands, the service network, all these things. And we started a conversation, and it's pretty incredible because really it came in just as a fresh customer. Sergeant Tony Abdallah from the South Pasadena Police Department, he literally just, showed up one day and he's like, would you guys build a police car instead of a race car? And we're like, well, police cars normally, they chase race cars normally, but I mean, we got to give them a fair shot too. So yeah, let's do this. Let's build you guys a couple police cars. So yeah, and I mean, I can obviously, I'll dive as deep as you guys want me to, but the very quick version is that essentially over the last few years, I've been working really closely, the team here at Unplugged, to really educate a lot of people. There's a lot of misnomers, a lot of miseducation about electrification, about infrastructure, but also about Tesla in general. I think there are so many opportunities out there. All four of us in this room and everyone watching today, we have a familiarity and an appreciation for Tesla. Not everybody does. And so this was an opportunity for us to connect and really educate the city council, the stakeholders involved, and the taxpayers. Let's be honest, police cars are paid for by taxpayers. And so we wanted to do a lot of education, and that's a big part of what we've been doing over the last few years. And now we're doing it. Now it's live. Now we're building the cars, and it's exciting stuff.
Yeah. So what was that? Oh, sorry, Joe. Did you want to say
No,
something?
I was just saying, wow. That's, I mean, just the arc is kind of crazy, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's well, obviously, Unplugged has built an amazing brand. I mean, I think even at this point, you all are a certified Tesla service center, obviously right next to the product development center as well in Hawthorne. So you have an incredible brand, and so there's no one better, at least especially in Southern California, really the nation, but for them to be kind of in your backyard and to approach you. So was there any like hesitation, I think, initially, just because, again, going from like a police fleet to like sports cars, or maybe, I don't know, you would obviously know better than me, but like, was there a hesitation there, or was it one of those things where the ears just popped up and this is something you guys wanted to run with? Because it also sounds like it took 3 years. So, or at least from beginning conversation to the final launch. So,
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. Like, was there hesitation? Did you guys have to do a lot of research to prepare for this? Or was this something that you guys were going to take on and just kind of learn as you went?
That's such a fantastic question, and totally reasonable to wonder, like, hey, what was this journey like for us? And I think ultimately, what I'll initially tell you is that the number one reason, of course, they came to us is because of our expertise. And like you said, we're here on Jack Northrop, right on the SpaceX campus. The Boring Company tunnel goes under our campus. We've got Tesla Design Studio. So we're in it, right? I still think, by the way, they should rename Jack Northrop Avenue to, Musk Lane or something like that. But that's another conversation. Nonetheless, we started thinking about this when they first reached out, and we thought, okay, this is interesting, but we weren't afraid of it because at the end of the day, everything that we do at Unplugged is we push the envelope. Our engineering is the best. Our aerodynamics research is the best. We engineer our products to be the best on earth. We don't just make an off-the-shelf option that you can get on Amazon or something like that. We're looking for the highest level of engineering to take your Tesla to the next level. And so when it comes to a project like this, it was an excitement for myself and for the team, because this is yet another opportunity for us to engineer solutions that haven't existed before, right? So, if you look at the law enforcement community and specifically the vehicles that they're using, it's typically Ford Interceptor utility, it's Tahoes, Chargers, back in the day, Crown Victorias and beyond. That's a known variable. And this is not known. This is unknown territory, much like when you race a car at Pikes Peak, unknown territory. So we were excited to jump in and to to kind of what it took to get us to today, I think number one, we weren't afraid of this. We were actually really excited. We love a challenge to innovate, right? Because that's what we do best at Unplugged. But the other side of that is, what's involved with creating police cars and making sure you do it right. This is a big deal. When you race a car at Pikes Peak or anywhere, safety is extremely paramount. You have to make sure that everything is done perfectly because lives are literally on the line. We're taking this and ramping that up even further. Law enforcement it can be a really dangerous job, and we need to make sure that we give these officers not only the safest, but the most reliable solution possible. And while doing that, make it so that they can just focus on their job. So a big part of what we're going to be doing is ensuring that every solution we engineer, every car that we provide allows them a little bit more freedom of their mind. And what I mean by that is if you have 10 things to touch in a car when you're driving and you're chasing a car at 50 miles an hour through Southern California, right? It can get a little wild. You've got switches and knobs and things, all this stuff going on. So one of many examples of how we're trying to make sure we innovate solutions so that law enforcement has a safer job. But also thinking about, what happens with the car when it's parked? Is it going to be running for 20 minutes while, there's a quick break, things like that. So there's definitely so many factors to this. And the last several years was a lot of back and forth with educating and understanding what those needs were and how we can engineer solutions. It's kind of interesting because the majority of this time was literally just getting up to today, right? Now we have some vehicles and the upfitting process has begun and we're getting into it, right? The majority of the time spent was really just, understanding how to get everybody on board. It was less about knowing we wanted to do it and more about how to make sure everybody was comfortable we were doing it. So, and I'm trying to, by the way, I apologize. There's so much information on this that I could provide to you guys. So I'm trying to kind of bite size it as much as possible.
Right. Like you mentioned upfitting and stuff. So I'm trying to think like these are leases. So what all could you do to a leased Tesla for the police department?
Great question. These are, I think when you do a consumer lease, they're definitely treated a little differently, right? There's like a little guide that tells you, here's the size scratch that you can have on your car. And this is the dent that you can have that's allowable. This is a totally different spectrum. And our partner in this is Enterprise Fleet. And we'll be working with additional leasing partners as well in the future. With Enterprise Fleet, they intentionally lease out municipality and other fleet vehicles, knowing that the cars they're not going to come back in 5 years looking the same, right? These cars get really heavily abused. And so those standards, for a scratch this big turns into maybe the whole panel's missing or something. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I was just curious about like what all the upfitting process would take. I know that on the that Ben had posted, there's a lot of suspension and things like that, but and I know you guys are doing like pretty much everything when it comes to it. So I mean, I've seen Craig's vehicle and I know like all the componentry that goes into like, I mean, you guys are like masters when it comes to carbon fitting and fiber fitting and stuff like that. So that back seat is usually uncomfortable for passengers. Yeah. So I'm just curious, like what all you had to do for that part.
Yeah. So it's, there's a lot. It's crazy because there's a lot of components that go into these cars, but it's little things like where do the siren get placed? Where does, how do the lights get implemented? The wiring is absolutely insane. It's like wiring up for an entire concert inside that car. And
wow.
It's absolutely amazing. So our team is just doing such an incredible job. We're innovating and developing solutions as we go. But it's so easy for us because, again, we know these cars better than anyone. So even though it's new things to us, to some extent, it's just finding another solution, with cars we're familiar with. And I'll follow up with that. Even though I personally have never been in law enforcement, I have a very close familiarity with law enforcement and military, and with family and friends in law enforcement and military my whole life. I was able to jump into this knowing exactly what the objections would be, what the needs would be, all of those things. So I have always been really excited, and it's been great working with the team. That's such a great picture there. So our team has been incredible. It's been a great education process. My sharing my knowledge, but also working with departments, not just South Pasadena, but many different departments that have reached out and said, "Hey, this is what you should do." Things like that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting. I know that some of the other police companies, that police forces that have used Teslas, have utilized the front trunk for like emergency type equipment, so that way the entire trunk and the sub trunk is open to like more of the utility type things that they would use for distress situations. So I mean, it's pretty awesome. The space you have in a Tesla vehicle is like way more than you would have like in a regular police vehicle. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think I mean what Unplug is doing. I mean, this is you're pioneering what's possible, and I think that's really exciting, especially for police departments. I mean, I know hopefully there's people will see what South Pasadena is doing, and they will be able to reach out to you all and others, or maybe if they're in New York or Connecticut, some other places, maybe you could even potentially refer them. But what would you say, like with something like this, and maybe you've seen, I don't know, maybe you've seen more departments reaching out, but what do you think that this means for sustainability and for police departments kind of combined? And then, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just so excited. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if you've ever, if anyone has pets watching or what have you, but you even start uttering the word, walk, and that they start jogging in place. That's me right now. I'm just so excited. So yeah, it's such a great question. So, I mean, the first thing that you mentioned, when these questions arise, which they ultimately will, I'm a police chief or I'm a fleet coordinator in a city out there, and I've got questions. Well, the great news is we're developing solutions to make sure that every police department or fleet manager or what have you, they will be able to contact us, and we'll be able to provide you information like staff reports. Those that don't know, a city staff report are the tools that you need to show the case study. What are the dollars and cents here? How much am I going to save my taxpayers by going to a fleet solution for our city? And so we're actually going to have those options available. We're going to be providing details directly to those municipalities, so that it's one step that they don't have to go through. For those that don't know, extremely arduous process, and we went through it over the last 3 years. I was sitting at city council meetings until like 2-3 a.m. and so learning a lot. The other thing I wanted to touch on is that for those folks that aren't here in Southern California or neighboring states, two big factors. Number one, we're expanding very rapidly. So Unplugged, we're already a global brand. Those that don't know, we have a shop on the Nürburgring. We've got locations all around the world, and we do racing all around the world. So we plan on upfitting vehicles around the globe as well. We're starting here in Southern California, but we're going to go everywhere. So definitely look for that in the future. But also, we're going to have solutions in place so that if Unplugged isn't doing the upfit, you can still purchase products from us for your fleet or for your police vehicles. And those solutions are going to start coming into play in a public view soon, which is really exciting.
Well, awesome. James, I think the biggest thing for me has just been, what Unplugged has done. It's taking EVs and making it and showing the world really that this is a sports car. This is something you can take to the limits and destroy ICE cars on. And so, and this is all part of it. Actually, just in a lot of ways, a different spectrum or a different, thought in that, you're taking, police vehicles and making them accessible. And, they're the safest cars. Not only that, I mean, imagine getting pushed to the side of the road by a Model Y. The way that those things are built. Not saying that they're going to destroy those cars, but sometimes they'll use that brute force a little bit. But thank you, Unplugged. Give a shout out to Ben for just spending your time here today and just really just telling us about all of your work. Joe or Jeff, I don't know if you want to say anything.
No,
else.
just great. My question was around scale outside of California. I'm in the Chicago area, so it's great to see that the team is expanding and look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to please follow us on social. Unplugged Tesla on Twitter, Unplugged Performance on Instagram, and please follow us on YouTube, everywhere, because at the end of the day, again, if you're in a city or you're in a town and you're like, yeah, you know what, I would much rather it be a Tesla that's in town. And there might be a little debate about if you want Teslas chasing Teslas. That's another conversation. But they're great cars, and we want to accelerate the mission. So if you're a taxpayer or a city council member or what have you, and you've got questions, please visit us at unpluggedperformance.com. Give us a call, reach out to us. We're creating those solutions now. So whether you're in Chicago, New York, wherever you are, we're here to kind of help you get through this. And hey guys, let's get this electrification movement going. Let's jumpstart this thing. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you guys are playing a huge part of it. So we're just more of covering this transition, all things Tesla, but you guys are actually in the weeds. So thank you for all that you do, and we're rooting for you guys from the side. So. And I know we'll see you guys in September. Our club's doing a Tesla Corsa thing with you, and so it should be a really fun time.
Yeah, who knows? There might be some cool stuff there.
All right, well, looking forward to it. Thanks again, James.
Thank
see
you,
you, man.
Guys, so much for having me.
All right, that was awesome. So thank you, James, for
incredible.
joining us. Really, really cool to just see the electrification happening with police departments, and I think again that's the first major one. And so it's really cool to see that. And it's actually really interesting how the deal was set up, where it's like Enterprise owns it and they're doing those long-term deals. They do it similar with Uber. So it's almost like that model where it's like Uber's actually kind of the one that owns it, even though they're the ones putting it through the Enterprise deal. And I don't know, it's pretty insane how that worked. But
it's pretty smart though. I was there's a couple of members out here like me here in Stockton and a couple of members in Visalia and Fresno area that are trying to get the police to I've talked to the mayor here, but we've also been trying to get other cities and counties to also take up that. And it's good that he's going to have that information available so we can actually show them like, hey, this is why it's a good idea. This is how it saves, and this is what it can benefit. So that's pretty awesome.
All right, well, let's just jump into the news. There's never a dull moment, as we all know.
Crazy week.
This week was going to be slow, and then it just keeps getting ramping, right? I mean, there's impacts with. So again, quick reminder: shareholder meeting. It's going to be live streamed at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time this upcoming Tuesday. So make sure you check that out. Well, this is a slide actually I was looking and excited to get Jeff's take on. Shout out to Sawyer for building this epic graph. He's been tracking, the ramp specifically at Giga Austin. But Tesla announced this past week that they've hit 5,000 units per week. And what I wanted to call out was it was literally back in, I believe it was September of 2022 that they were at 2,000 vehicles, and then roughly in, I believe it was December, they were at 3,000, and then by the time 5 months later they went from 3,000 to 5,000. That's like a 67% lift in a matter of 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
So Jeff, would love to get your take on how is this easy? Is this incredibly hard? Is this, I mean, obviously they've done a couple factories, but just get your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, when you're ramping a new facility like this, first off, the scale is great to see from a cost perspective. There's two things going on. There's a couple things going on here, right? It's not just you have this high runner product, the Model Y, that's running globally, and it's not just, hey, let's just divert parts into Texas. No, they're actually building it in a different way, with castings, with the 4680, and they're building non 4680 as well, I believe. But they're building it a different way, and when you look at everything involved, it's not just funneling material in. So they've got to fundamentally get, the four walls of that factory stable and scaled. And that, that scale involves bringing in equipment, getting that equipment running to rate, bringing in people and labor, and getting the people and labor, right, to run at rate and run consistently. In the meantime, this factory is bringing up, a new model in the background, right, with Cybertruck, and getting that capacity installed. So there's more things happening, but ramping this factory up and seeing it go from basically it was zero to maybe 500 units right a year ago, to where it is today this is huge from a cost structure perspective. I think, John, your video with Tesla owners of Silicon Valley with Elon and Austin, I think he referred to as a furnace. And so when you have all that fixed cost and you have that labor, you have that equipment capacity brought in, and you're not producing output, it's a huge cost drag. It's many, many thousands of dollars. Think about it, per car. But now this factory is, getting up to the halfway point, probably from its intended, full capacity of more than probably 10,000 K a week for the first phase. So if you think about it, it's a huge drop in terms of from a cost perspective. And if you look at it just quarter on quarter, like one of the big things that's happening with Tesla right now is the sensitivity around COGS and gross margin. And so if you can go from your point of going from 3 to 5K from the end of the last quarter to basically the end of the first quarter, into the second quarter, that's a nice jump, and that's going to be beneficial from a COGS perspective. So what Tesla wants to do right now is they want to get Berlin and Austin going at full rated capacity. They know they build a superior Model Y in those facilities. They know it's actually a lower COGS car to build, even from a bill of material perspective. And once they get those capacities running, get those factories running at rate, they know the full COGS will be, lower than just building in Fremont. So it's great to see, and we'll look forward to to the next. I believe their next milestones, is if the 4680 is starting to free up. This is another good sign here. If that is starting to free up, I can see them hitting these next milestones much more quickly.
It's very interesting how we can just see the milestones, right? But just to think that was not even a year ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just wild to go from 0 to like 5,000 units a week, and it's not even a year later. That was August of 2022. We're not even in August of 2023.
Right. Yeah, and I think kind of, Jeff, you were saying it. Actually, it's funny. You're crazy. You're the one reminding me about the interview. But yeah, I knew obviously that comment, but if you look at this graph again by Sawyer, really from that April to May, he was literally talking about how Berlin and Austin were a cash furnace. And so, we're sitting in the factory and interviewing the guy where, again, this factory is essentially burning a bunch of cash. And so now at 5,000, literally not even a year later, is just pretty insane. They're ramping from 0 to 5,000 a week, which is over 200,000 cars annually, right? 250,000 cars annually. So pretty insane to see that. But I think, and also too, they're doing this in a recession with heavy constraints, people probably pulling back on, how much they're spending. So it's, really important, as, again, we don't have to get into this whole pricing war thing right now, but pretty insane for them to be doing it in these conditions as well, and not stopping. And I think that's the big thing, is that people don't realize, is that you have to adjust the price to continue to move volume, especially with a bunch of uncertain times and all of this macroeconomic headwinds going on.
Yeah, the headwinds are insane, and the fact that Tesla's always been able to navigate it is kind of overlooked and a lot by things that Elon does, just because people might not like Elon, but the company is still flourishing. The company is still doing what it's doing, and is set the precedent for like a lot of other companies. Like I've always said that people love to hate Elon until they have to use him as a measure of of success. You know what I'm saying? Like people love to hate on Tesla, but then they compare everything to Tesla. It's like wow.
Yeah, they're running a very clear playbook,
Right.
and Austin is part of this playbook, which is get your factories to greater than 80% utilization, which allows your supply base. Remember, Austin's got its supply base feeding that factory as well, and they're starting to localize more, but they're still getting a lot of parts brought in. But get your factory to 80% utilization. Get your suppliers to 80% utilization. If there indeed is a greater slowdown that occurs, later in the second half, they're going to have factories that are ramped to full capacity at their lowest COGS structure, accepting commodities that are rolling over in a slowdown. And then
Right.
they've got the movement, they've got the ability to move on pricing as they need to do that. So they're running a playbook. And this is what everyone should, when they see these milestones, like, what's going on? I thought there's inventory. Like, what's going on? Well,
Right.
no, they are running their playbook. And by the way, there's pretty good data that shows that when they need to run down inventory, it runs down pretty quickly. And I believe Model Y in the U.S., for example, I know it's not universal, it's not global yet, but it's stocking out, and that was one of the reasons we saw the movement yesterday on pricing, I believe, and there'll probably be more.
Yeah.
Morning,
Amy,
Amy.
welcome. We're just going through. We just talked a little bit about her. Let me back up. I don't know if you wanted to give any comments. Otherwise, we're going to jump to the lithium refinery. I think Amy may have just. I don't know. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So we were just quickly talking about the insane ramp that Giga Austin has there. And Jeff mentioned last year when we were actually hanging out with Elon in Austin, he was talking about how Giga Austin and Berlin were a cash furnace, and literally a year ago they were, again, maybe 0 to 500 units a week or whatever the number was. And now, literally since December, they've ramped 67% from December till May. So pretty insane to do it, especially with all these macro headwinds that are going on.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I mean, it just goes back to the angst about margins. I expected them to be low in quarter one. I expect them to still be depressed in quarter two. I expect them to be recovering by the end of the year because the price cut slightly led all the cost decreases. But now we're seeing it as the factories get ramped and as they start getting those commodity contracts renegotiated this summer, that's going to start to make a big difference. And it was a really good job for them to ramp up to, it was 4,000 units a week as of Investor Day. So adding another 1,000 units a week that quickly is pretty impressive. It's only 2 months.
Yeah, definitely. And then some other big things that happened this week. We know that there was groundbreaking for the Tesla Lithium Refinery, which can produce enough lithium for 1 million batteries per year. So, again, this is Tesla continuing to own more and more of the full stack of the whole supply chain process. They're going to own the full vertical integration. And so it's pretty insane. And I think they made the comment, I don't know, I forgot exactly who made this comment, but it will produce more battery grade lithium than all of the rest of North America lithium refining capacity combined. So
yeah, I mean that's a huge claim, but it's not that far of a leap to take because we're not really doing anything here in North America as far as refining is concerned. So I mean that's pretty awesome. But like Drew Baglino said, he was like, we're doing this because we have to jumpstart the movement or else it won't get done. And they're absolutely correct. Look what happened in now everybody's looking at the Lithium Valley now. I mean, that stretch of area that isn't even being utilized. I know Amy had talked about this on one of her other podcasts, but I mean, that's just a huge area where they were just wasting lithium, just putting it right back into the ground because they had no need for it or use for it. And Tesla's been screaming this for over a decade. And it's like, why'd you sleep on that opportunity? You know what I mean? Like where we could be right now. And in terms of refining. It's wild.
Yeah, I see it as an enormous advantage for Tesla, for a few reasons, and I know you'll all be able to add to this. But the couple of big things that I see is that they're going to immediately drive to removing the cost out of the process down 30%, and remove steps from the process, just the way that Tesla has done in the manufacturing of vehicles, and that is going to be a huge advantage compared to at least North American competitors. Now in China, remember, all these companies are vertically integrated already. BYD produces their own batteries. So it also brings Tesla's cost more in line as they learn from the lithium refinery here before they go overseas. Then the second advantage it gives them is there has been a lot of price manipulation in the lithium market, where they are deliberately slowing production to keep the prices high. And because there's only been a few major producers of lithium geographically in Chile and in China and in Australia and these other areas, that's been very effective. But there's lithium all over the world. So if Tesla can start getting lithium from closer and local to the factories, then they're going to be able to smooth out that price. And then as everybody else, as you start truly transitioning to that sustainable future, and you're talking about petawatts of energy that are required, all the lithium manufacturers are still going to make a very good profit. They're just not going to be able to manipulate the price up and down to the same length. And another reason that will happen is because Tesla can now take from the brownfields, like you were just saying, where these lithium that wasn't seen to be something that would be economical to refine, that was left at the side of these mines, Tesla can go and grab that rock and process it. And if they have a 30% cost advantage, then that starts to be a lot more economical to produce. And when they do that, that allows them, before mines come online, when these crazy price spikes in lithium happen, to be able to have another source of supply. And then the really exciting thing also is that they're going to take in different lithium feedstocks, including the ability to do recycling, which is going to be very complementary to the deal with Redwood Materials.
Yeah, I think how aren't they? I thought they were already doing that, but that's partially probably already doing that with the Redwood Materials, right? Sorry, Jeff, were you gonna say something?
No.
Oh.
The deal specifically that Redwood has is with Panasonic, and then Panasonic supplies Giga Nevada.
Okay, all right.
But yes, Tesla is already doing that, and Tesla already has a drive to recycle as many materials as possible. They try and use 100% of the materials that come in the factory door, and have as little waste as possible too.
Sorry, Jeff, were you gonna say something? Okay.
No, I know this is great. I mean, I think Amy described it really well. They found a bottleneck in their supply chain, a bottleneck from a supply and cost perspective, and they said, "Look, this is getting in the way of the vision. We're going to have to address it," and they are.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know that BYD is already fully vertically integrated. Good for them. But yeah, it's a huge step. I think even Apple did this as they knew, and they're doing it even now. Obviously, I believe they've already said that they're partially moving out of China, if not fully, but slowly. But just with all of the stuff going on there, but with everything that they do, they definitely wanted to be vertically integrated, just because the more you're relying on other people, the more they can control the cost, the more they can control the timeline. And so when you start to hit certain scale, you have to pull everything in-house. You have to do things to really help you maintain a healthy cost structure, especially as you continue to scale. Because as we know, with macro headwinds, with the COVID and, even this recession, other people can make up the prices. And obviously, Jeff, I know you would know a lot more about that, but it's really cool for them to be doing this.
You want
All right.
You want a quick
Yeah, go for it.
BYD historical funny story. So BYD was the second supplier, one of the second or third suppliers when we were ramping the Razor product, And I remember having a meeting with them in Shenzhen. They're like, "Look, we want to show you what we're working on." They were just kind of getting going in auto, and they sat me in kind of a hybrid EV that they were working on. This is almost 20 years ago. So they've been at this. And I don't think a lot of people realize that BYD didn't start, making cars just 3 or 4 years ago. They've been at this for a couple of decades, and they've got a pretty, I would say, impressive, founder CEO that's behind it, and they are highly vertically integrated.
I also think that, there's rumors that the BYD Blade battery, which is an LFP battery, and is also part of a structural pack that they've created, may be used in Giga Berlin. So that would allow Tesla to use bolt castings to the structural pack battery and save a lot of steps and processes. So just there's a idea that Tesla and BYD are in like this death match of competition, and it's actually not true at all. And BYD and Tesla, BYD right now is listed as a Tesla partner on the China supplier list. There's some are listed as suppliers. The BYD is just a partner, but it's already listed on the list there. So you might see a lot more cooperation between these companies in the future, because Tesla is very resourceful about sourcing materials and battery cell components from wherever Tesla can get it, because that's how Tesla's going to enable this rapid growth.
Yeah, and there's a parallel to this in the mobile phone. It's Samsung in the mobile phone industry. They make, a huge chunk of the memory that's used. They make a huge chunk of the displays that are used. Especially, they had the entire market on OLED at one point in time. So yeah, there's precedence for this where you can kind of be a partner at the component level, and there's a way for that to work. And then you can also compete at the system level, and there's a way for kind of all of that to work. It's tricky sometimes to navigate, but there is precedence for this.
Yeah, it's also happened in the gaming industry as well. I'm sure everybody can remember when HD DVD came out in Blu-ray, and Microsoft and Sony had the big battle, but now everybody uses Blu-ray. I mean, there's precedent for it in all the mediums and manufacturing processes. It's going to be interesting to see how it's navigated, though.
Definitely. All right. So getting into some more breaking news, I think it's somewhat Tesla related. It has implications on Tesla. I think I showed it up a little bit earlier, but Elon announced a new Twitter CEO starting in 6 weeks. He's obviously going to be the CTO, overseeing product, software, and more. And so pretty insane. I'm glad that he finally was able to make this happen. I know it's probably, I don't know what the search has looked like. Obviously, he's bringing in someone that he probably really trusts or knows that can do the job. And I think last night I posted a quick tweet. It's interesting he's doing this right before shareholder meeting. I think that's maybe even something he was working towards. But, he continues to keep his word on the fact that he wants to find another CEO. He's going to step down as far as like being the front face person of it, even though, of course, people are still going to assume that. But, this just shows his continued commitment to Tesla and what he has told investors. So the stock moved a little bit. I think it's up even again today, or this was after hours, but it's up even again today. So
yeah, it's very interesting how like whatever Elon does outside of anything, the market tends to either punish him or reward him because it's his only publicly traded company. So like that's their only way of like getting to him. And it's just like whatever he did at Twitter had no bearing, as we just realized, like looking at the ramp of Austin and everything like that. I mean, Tesla's been fundamentally great. You know what I mean? It never once waned in any of the things that he did at Twitter, but still it was just always affected. It's funny how the market treats those type of things.
Yeah. I'll say something. I mean, really quick. I think this is indicative of Twitter probably stabilizing financially, because he put a time frame on doing this. He probably said, closer to the end of the year.
Right.
And I think he got the right candidate at the right time, and also I believe he's gotten the financials probably more stable than he even predicted. So I think this is a good mixture, getting somebody from the ad side of it that really understands that landscape. And who knows, nobody's really talking about this, but what influence or impact could she have on how the Tesla brand and how that is seen? It's already got a great brand, right, from an NPS, and but I mean, where else could she help with that? CEOs sometimes can span outside of just their direct work and spirit, but I think good timing, ahead of what he actually guided. And to me, it says there could be some stability here with Twitter.
Yeah, actually, I do know he said that this quarter that they're going to be cash flow positive or neutral. So he's engaged also with tweets about that. So I know that this is going to be it's been like 6 months of production hell or Twitter hell, whatever you want to call it, making it into X Corp. But I'm really excited about all of the work that he put in, obviously, because, he bought it. And once he realized what was underneath the hood, he realized, hey, I have to get my hands very deeply involved. And so, he put the time in, but, he's also willing, when he had a goal in mind of where he wanted the company to be, he saw that he's getting close to it or arrived at that. So that now he can kind of potentially pull off a little bit. As we know, he'll still continue to be fairly involved. So if there's not more comments on that, the next thing is, again, continual movements. Sawyer, I feel like half the deck sometimes is just Sawyer posting. He's a great source of information. So I think there was two price increases. Yep. Last night, the S and X went up by 1,000. And then also it looks like the Model Y only went up by $250. And the Model 3 didn't have a change. I think I put the raffle, but that's actually on the next slide. So, but yeah, so I think, again, it's one of those things where I know a lot of people were very frustrated as the prices were moving down, but we know as Tesla stabilizes or the economy stabilizes a little bit, they'll adjust it back up as it goes. But ultimately, as we all know, Tesla's goal is to move as many cars to help us ramp to a sustainable future. And then really, again, probably move through the inventory. The last thing you want this company doing is just sitting on a bunch of cars. And so
unless they're right-hand drive SRX.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we didn't get into that. But yeah, I think a lot of our APAC and Aussie and friends, they're all very frustrated because I think, I forgot if I dropped that.
No, I don't think we dropped it in, but I mean, it was unfortunate. It was like very last minute that popped up.
And
also,
actually,
break.
I would love to get Jeff and Amy's take on that. But yeah, so the announcement was right-handed drive, the right-handed side driving. The S and X is no longer going to be, they're not going to fulfill those orders. In, I think, Australia and some of the other APAC countries. I think someone even mentioned UK and Ireland, any pretty much right-hand driving. So some of the cars will be available, I think, in those countries left-handed. But I would love to kind of get both of your expertise on, how would Tesla come to make this decision? What type of things are they considering as they make these type of decisions?
You mean you want to start?
I would see how the company would do that to Jeff, because that's definitely his area of expertise. But I would just say that the one thing that we need to keep in mind is FSD is getting better and better and better every day. And as it does that, eventually, and it's probably way sooner than we think, you're not going to need a steering wheel in a car. It won't be left-hand drive. It won't be right-hand drive. It's just going to be a entertainment cabin that you go and sit in. So if Tesla was going to delay the production of these vehicles in this macro environment, because margins is a huge focus right now, and it costs a lot more to do limited production vehicles. It costs a lot more to ship them. Past the point where they thought that FSD was going to be solved, then were they going to produce them at all, or was it better to tell people now and give them a credit? And I think that a lot of the news missed the fact that they're getting like a $3,000 credit toward the purchase of a Model Y or a Model 3 as long as they purchase it before October. And that is 6 times what their deposit was. So the Tesla is trying to do what they can to minimize the blow. And they're just, my view is it's really hard if you had that order in and you were looking forward to it and you were excited about it. Not saying that isn't a difficult situation whatsoever, but it is better that you know now if it's not coming, because there are options to import the car into the country and to be able to import it yourself and get it right now, rather than wait for a car that's never coming.
Yeah, I'd just be really quick. I think that the total volume on this of the first 4.5 million cars built was around 35,000. So as Tesla really focuses on their new products and platforms, they're ramping Cybertruck inventory, they're bringing those parts in, they're bringing Megapack inventory in. You've got to look at your inventory efficiency and how quickly you can turn it and move it out. And when you have SKUs that are kind of lower runners, they're targets. And I do feel for any of the customers that had this product on order and we're looking forward to it. It's not a great feeling, but I believe they're still offering it. Correct me if I'm wrong, in 3 and Y.
Yeah,
And
they are.
That's Tesla's. That's Tesla right now. That Tesla is transitioning to, that luxury sedan was used to drive capital into the business to build volume cars. And so, the new 3 forthcoming, hopefully, and the Y, this is the volume. This is Tesla. And then, obviously the new product platforms, Cybertruck and others that are going to come, they want to build out, they want to build into new segments. And the way to do that is you've got to also kind of get fit on your inventory and your factory cost structure. And one way to do that is reduce the amount of SKUs involved, and the logistics involved too would be specialized, because you're doing, smaller lot sizes in many situations. So there's a lot of reasons for that. So yeah, that's all I would say on that. Back to the price increases, unless there's anything else on this.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I think, again, this really shows that kind of what we see on the outside sometimes isn't what's actually. There's so many variables that are unknown. And you've seen I've taken a couple of stabs at this in some tweets and trying to. There are relative things you can do with looking at relative external data points from point A to point B, but we actually don't know their absolute inventory levels on these cars. There's so many things we don't know. The order inbound rate. There's a lot of things we don't know. Tesla does know this stuff, and they're making pretty quick decisions. And remember, they're from order input to their manufacturing cycle time to the length of their distribution, like all of that's much shorter. They don't have a dealer network. So all of that, you're seeing much quicker reaction, and you're seeing a lot more transparency than you'd see with other car vendors. So I think this noise will eventually subside. And I agree with Amy that, the first half is kind of where we're going to have this compression on margins, and it should be steadily improving, in the second half. There's a lot of things that they're doing that are commodity driven, but there's things that they're doing that are event driven and have a date on the schedule for when they're going to cut over cost improvements in the factory. And I'm highly confident, given the volumes on Y going from 700 and 700 to 800K last year to probably 1.2 to 1.4 million this year, that they're putting a lot of effort around reducing the COGS structure.
Yeah, and I would say the other thing is that there was actually an order increase from the people I follow, at least in China on Twitter, when they raised that price slightly. So it's just like the same way when you look at traders on the stock. When do traders on a stock buy in? They don't buy in as it's going down. They don't want to try and catch the falling knife. They buy in when the stock reverses and starts to go up. And that apparently is the mentality of many car buyers as well, that as soon as the price started going up, even a few $100s per car, a lot of people are like, okay, now I gotta buy now because the trend has reversed, and I don't want to feel like I missed out. So it was much of the narrative that we've been listening to for the past several weeks is if cutting prices is the way they're going to get people in the door, where does it stop? But we just saw raising prices getting people through the door. So there is a benefit to raising and lowering your prices based on the superior information that Tesla has. And Tesla has actually always did this, but it was never a focus before because the wait list for the cars was so long that it wasn't taken before as a proxy of demand. And now it's being taken as a proxy of demand when that's really not what it's measuring. It's measuring many other things as well, and is a function of many other factors.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's interesting how I feel like we're seeing. I feel like I'm being able to look back at almost the first two quarters. We're halfway through the second one right now, and really seeing, they're squeezing that margin, as they're also continuing to ramp these insane factories that have been kind of cash furnaces. And again, they grew the production per week by 67%, specifically at Austin, in a matter of 6 months, while also too trying to navigate through these headwinds that we're in with the recession and the everything else going on. So it's almost like I feel like I'm looking back, seeing the chess moves that are being made, and
Right.
And seeing that they had to do this because there's a lot of stuff that they're seeing internally, and even forward looking, where they can continue to, like, all right, things aren't potentially going to get great. Yeah, we're ramping these factories, but maybe, given the macro headwinds, we have to take down the price, take a margin hit now. But, this is something we can recover because, as we know, they are reinventing the supply chain efforts all the time. They're reinventing the current platform with the Gen 3 platform, which is going to reduce costs by something like 30 to 50%. So it's, so they know that, they're, from a short-term perspective, people are, it's not going to be what analysts want to see, but long-term, they know this is what they have to do to continue to drive volume. Because again, we know we don't want them to have thousands of vehicles that are just sitting in a lot just so that they can maintain a Mercedes, type model where they don't really care about pricing and stuff like that. But that's not their goal. Their goal is to move as many cars, get as many butts and seats to get ICE vehicles off the road.
And remember, we don't know what new products they might have coming out, and you want your pricing structure to make sense across your product line. So if you are going to be coming out with a significantly cheaper product, you're going to want to get efficiencies in your manufacture of your more expensive products, and you want to bring those prices in line where it makes sense. Otherwise, nobody is going to buy a car for double the price that doesn't seem like you're getting even 10% extra value. I just saw a post of, I think it was Rivian. They got an extra 200 mile, 30 or 40 miles of range for $10,000 difference on the battery pack.
Wow.
On the price. So and somebody posted, like, this is ridiculous. Like, there needs to be some type of correlation between how much extra benefit you get and the difference in price. And I think as we start hearing more about what Tesla has in the product pipeline, we're going to look back in retrospect. This is going to all make complete sense that they had to get the prices in line. And it seems very deliberate to me that the Model Y has now trended below the average new price of a car in the United States. It's just below that point. The Model 3 used to sit there. So there has been a very deliberate, in my opinion, move of where their prices sit, knowing what products they have coming out.
Definitely. For sure. I think, very, very good insights. One thing I wanted to highlight, it looks like they're launching a revamped referral program. So it looks like you now have a chance to win a free Cybertruck. One winner will be selected at random to receive one of the first Cybertruck VINs off the line, no reservation needed, free of charge. So expect a bunch of people to be just dropping their referral codes.
That's a big deal. I mean,
It's a
the
huge
big
deal.
deal is you're one of the first VINs, because
Right.
if you order one now, I think it may be years, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, it's I think this is the right call, especially because it's not like giving out a roadster necessarily, but this is the next sexy thing. This is the next thing that is going to really, again, change the trucking industry. I think it'll be the best selling truck at some point as they ramp, like the Model Y should be this year. So
Right. But rip roadster referrals though.
yeah, people are gonna get creative with that again.
Yeah.
But I think we're at time. So I know. So shout out to James for coming for the first 20 minutes. I'm gonna do a quick Tesla Takeover plug after I give a couple of shout outs. So again, make sure to follow. All of their information is in the bio. At the Jeff Lutz, our supply chain expert, Joe, president of San Joaquin Valley, and then Amy, our early day investor, again, at SF_ 3 times. I messed it up this morning. I think I only did 2 in the tweet, so I'm sorry.
That's fine.
_ Tahoe. And again, Joe's at SJV Tesla. Jeff is at the Jeff Lutz. But yeah, I think, there's never a dull moment. I think some pretty big announcements this week, right? With the Twitter CEO finding
Huge.
the 5,000 per week by Tesla, some price movements, the Lithium Refinery groundbreaking. Again, I think they're gonna that in 1 year it should be fully built, and then in another year it should be fully ramped. So in 2 years you should have enough lithium for 1 million batteries per year. So again, lots of things happening. The shareholder meeting is happening next Tuesday. So if you're in Austin, come stop by. I believe the Tesla Owners Club of Austin is doing something as well. So they're doing a live stream at a bar. So make sure to drop by, and then some of us may be hanging out afterwards at that same place. So definitely stop by. Thanks again for everyone for coming through. But real quick, obviously got to do the shameless plug. If you're free July 29th through the 30th, the Tesla Takeover, it's at the Madonna Inn. Again, it's the largest community event that is put on in North America. Again, there's going to be amazing content sessions for all things Tesla. There's going to be some amazing Tesla influencers and YouTubers. We're going to have a customized Tesla contest. We're going to have awesome EVs, original roadsters on display. And then there's going to be a camping zone. There may even be, we're still finalizing some stuff on a drag strip experience where you can drag race as well. And then there's going to be a ride and drive, I think, that Friday night. And all that to say, we have May Musk speaking Sunday afternoon. So if you're in California or want to, travel, put that on your calendar, TeslaTakeover.com. So yeah, but either way, thank you, Jeff, Amy, and Joe for joining us this week.
Thank you, guys.
Great
Thank
seeing you.
you.
See ya.